Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. We invite app industry professionals to cover various topics, and we promise to do our best to keep it both insightful and brief. In this episode, we have Shalom Michaeli, Manager Director, Alternative App Stores at Digital Turbine. Shalom, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Hey, Artem. Great to be here. Very excited to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. All right, so we're going to move forward with setting the stage first. Okay, a quick trivia question. What was significant about the year 2008 technology-wise? It was the year when Bitcoin was introduced and Spotify was launched. Am I missing something here? Right. Both the Apple App Store and Google Play stores were launched that year. It was about the introduction of the new software distribution model for developers. Then followed the witty slogan from Apple, "There's an app for that," and both platforms began to count and brag about the number of apps released on those stores. Moving forward, the status quo was established. Apple only had one app store, an exclusive distribution channel for iOS developers. On the other hand, Google had multiple third-party app stores for Android, on top of the Google Play Store. For a while, it felt like it was going to be like that forever. And then forever ended. On March 5th, 2024, Apple released iOS 17.4, enabling third-party app stores on iOS devices within EU, complying with the European Union regulation. On this episode, we have Shalom to talk about shaping the future of app distribution, trust, growth, and regulation. But before we dive in, Shalom, let's kick off with talking about you. What is your background in tech?
Sure. So I've started, in mobile app startup back then in 2012 called Interactive. We built our exchange for in-app developers. I was leading a small team, and then in 2016, I was requested to go to London and to build our European operation over here. So since then, I'm based here in London, and we got since then acquired by Fiber in a space where Fiber also has a mediation back then company acquired also HazeUp, if maybe you remember. So I was leading the European division. We were growing the developers on the mediation side, on the offerable side, and the exchange side. We grew the European the department to $250 million. Back then, it was 47% from the company's revenues, and steadily, growing the operation up until 2021 when Digital Turbine acquired Fiber, and together with AdColony. And since then, I was leading the European division, and a year and a half ago, I was asked to build a new startup within the company that is focused on the alternative stores and alternative distribution and defining the strategy for it.
So you've been living in London for 8 years. How do you like London so far?
I love London, and the biggest thing that you learn to value over here is to check the weather app every morning when you wake up, and to find the best fish and chips in town. So we love it.
Oh yeah, London is awesome. All right, now tell me about Digital Turbine.
Sure. So Digital Turbine is a mobile growth platform. We partner with carriers and OEMs, app developers, brand advertisers, and basically operate one of the largest app developers growth platforms out there. We have, developers that work with us on user acquisition, different products like preload. We're preloading campaigns on the devices, and then when the user buys the new phone, opens the device, they see the application straight from day one. We do user acquisition with Offerable and DSPs. We have the front of ad monetization suite products, which are our DT's exchange, where we blend together brand advertisements and performance campaigns, and we have Offerable and mediation. And around a few years ago, we understood that there are new regulations coming on board, the DMA changes that enable us to understand that we need to open a new division that's called the Alternative Stores Division. And basically in 2023, February 2023, we launched our first alternative alternative store, and we installed it on 40 million devices. We had a nice growth, but we understood that we need to have a new version of the store, and we recently announced that we partnered with One Store, one of the biggest world's alternative store, very big in South Korea, with great team over there, and we are now launching it in December. So Digital Turbine is getting into 2025 with bringing the store to the market and bringing all the user acquisition and ad monetization tools to this new ecosystem.
Great. So you guys have been thinking ahead. This is really great. Kudos to you. Not only being focused on what's going on right now, but looking kind of around the corner, what's happening next, what you should be ready for. Okay, now, how do you see European regulations and advancing technologies shaping the future of third-party app stores?
Right. So I think, this is a perfect storm, the way I used to call it, for an app developer and for the entire ecosystem, because this is the time when three elements, in my opinion, are coming all together. The regulation changes, like DMA, and we can speak about a few others that are happening across, the world. Different countries understand that they need to do things a little bit differently, because the applications and the stores become such a big component of our daily life. The second point is developers' needs for growth. And the third one is the available technologies, different technologies that's happening. Those three elements of the changes in regulation, developers' needs for growth that are basically, hindered in the past several years due to different industry consolidations and privacy changes that affecting in-app IAA revenues. There's a continuous, increase in CPIs, and there's a continuous decrease in ARPUs per user, and somebody is benefiting from this gap, right? So developers need to find new avenues to grow the revenues. And finally, we have available technologies that can bring all together and compensate for those losses that developers had in the past several years. So what I think is that, the DMA brings a breath of fresh air to the mobile ecosystem, because in the past 15 years, the mobile ecosystem was dominated by Apple and Google that were taking 30% from each and every in-app purchase transaction, and that many developers felt that they reached the ceiling with the app developers. There's only limited amount of things that those giants can do for them. So the biggest changes that the DMA brings is the requirement basically from Google and Apple that they have to, one, provide within their operating system alternative store, and they have to provide alternative billing within the store. And this, regulation with the changes that, Epic and with the Google and Apple battles, basically has grown global attention to App Store policies that required different reforms in different countries. Basically will open the market for competition that should decrease fees, increase developer revenues, and eventually at the bottom line should enable better distribution channels and better and greater value for each and every dollar that the user spend. So there's a huge benefit to everyone in this ecosystem.
Absolutely, Shalom. I think in particular game developers, the guys who were not part of the big powerhouses that been churning great game titles, but smaller guys who appreciate extra channels, more extra air to breathe and reach out more users, because they've been having a really hard time trying to compete with big guys who have been holding both stores like the top of the cream, right?
You're 100% right. If you are a big developer, right, you want to continue maybe that, but there are many applications out there in the stores. How do you allow discoverability, for example, for smaller ones? This is something that definitely had to change, and I think that this is what the alternative store is also bringing as a change to this industry.
Right. Now, if you want to be a viable alternative to the Apple's App Store, technology alone is not enough. You need to build trust with people. And so my next question is, what strategies are essential for alternative app stores to build consumer trust while scaling their presence globally?
Sure. You know what, Artem, building consumer trust is crucial for alternative stores to compete with Apple and Google, because the goal is not only to bring the user to install once or purchase once from your alternative application. The goal is to get a repeatable customer base that coming over, engaging, installing, spending, and coming over again because they had a good interaction, because they had good experience. And for that, you definitely need to build trust, because their trust with the walled gardens already exists, and they know how to go there and how to interact over there. How do you create this new trust? And for that, there are a few things that we have to have within the stores, and there are a few things that we will also be able to have in the future. So a few things that we have to have is, for example, strict app review process, like what kind of applications getting in. I can tell you that this is a really important thing, and for us within DT, we have two processes of reviewing every application. One with us, with DT and one store, and the second is one is with the carrier. So there is a verification layer that goes before each and every application is actually coming in, going live on the store. You have to emphasize mentally that quality is more important than quantity. There are more than 4 million applications today, as we said, Google and Apple today. Like, how that does it help with discoverability? That does that not? So we have to highlight the fact that we are putting more emphasis on high quality applications rather than just getting and filling the shelves. And that means what kind of partners are we working with? They have to be reputable. They have to be trusted developers that boost credibility. And trust comes with user experience. If you get into your store and it's easy and clean to navigate, you have fast and secure payments, which is very, very, very important for each and every user out there. You have regular updates, privacy points, right? I remember when I started in the industry many, many years ago, there were different things that could happen in the stores. Now we need to make sure that we avoid collecting unnecessary data and clearly outline what is collected and when from the user. And not to forget at the bottom line that we're building over here a new ecosystem. Apple and Google are massive companies that build also their stores for the past more than 15 years, more than a decade and a half, and our industry will get there, and the learning curves are growing, and our industry is working very fast to get to the same level of experience that the users have also today on the walled gardens.
Yeah, this is the most important question you've just touched on. That when you compete with these big guys, you're trying to gain your part of the market. You have to understand that they've set the standard. People are expecting by going on the App Store from Apple that the app is okay, it's safe, it was vetted, it was tested, and I can trust my money to this company. If you want to get your part of the market, you should repeat the same experience. Ideally, you should be able to gain the same level of trust. I know it's hard when it's about Apple, 40 plus years on the market and a huge trust between so many users. Like I think the last number from Apple was around billion paid subscribers across the whole ecosystem, movies, apps, music, etc. So yeah, this is like the bar. You can see the bar which was set. You're trying to match that bar with your own efforts, and this is the model. Like it's easier because you know what you should repeat, and it's really hard because what you actually have to repeat, because that trust is not easy to build. Absolutely. Now I wonder, how is Digital Turbine using research and partnerships to prepare for the future of app distribution?
So in terms of research and partnership, we use research to understand what did work or did not work in the past, right? Because think about it, the alternative stores, we did not invent the wheel. They exist for more than decade and a half, and they're there, but they never scaled and never generated a significant portion from developers' revenues. There are more than 300 alternative stores up there. The ones that specializing with different apps, different categories, different regions. So why didn't they scale for the past several years for app developers? And the reasons we understood that, geographical location for some of them was one of the main points. Most of them were in APAC region, which usually the revenue contribution from developers from APAC regions is relatively low. So even further on alternative stores. And the second thing that we understood is the lack of technologies that were available back then that could actually drive this distribution at scale was missing. Most of the user acquisition that you could do was narrowed to the OEM or the carrier or the same store, but it wasn't enabled to go cross devices in doing user acquisition. And those things, definitely impacted the developer revenues back then. And we understood that we need to change different things in order to substantially grow the adoption of alternative stores, interest, and mainly the bottom line of developer revenues. Now, this is where also partnerships come in. This is where we understood that UA have to be an important part of this ecosystem. It's not just UA; it's I call it alternative UA. How do you do alternative UA? How do you do alternative growth? Because if developers rely on only organic installs, even if they are in tier 1 countries for alternative stores, then it's I have this analogy. It's like a Ferrari without an engine. Why? Because in this new Ferrari, you can get in, you can smell the car, you can get excited, you see all the gadgets, it feels great, but it doesn't have an engine, so you're not moving anywhere. You're stuck in your parking. And in order for you to actually move forward, you have to embed the engine, which is the user acquisition. And when you combine into the alternative ecosystem, the organic growth that can come from the store, from also featuring, from giving different discounts and marketing techniques on giving discounts to the users so they can come back and play again. And on top of that, also build the user acquisition, the alternative user acquisition arm. Then you actually build a strategy. Then and you have those available technologies today to drive those distribution user acquisition efforts. Technologies like Single Tap, for example. So when we work with the carriers, we implement technology that's called Ignite, and that enables us to download a custom APK. What is a custom APK? Is an APK is a file that doesn't have Google and Apple's billing at scale. So with 2 clicks today, a user on Ignite can download a custom APK on its device without any frictionless, because we have to remember that one of the things that also prevented that was the adoption of alternative stores and custom APKs was the fact that walled gardens didn't want to make it easy for users to download, to sideload, right? If you try to download a custom APK today, you have a scare screen. Are you sure you want to download this application? And that's a tactic. Many users don't necessarily want to take the chance because that can be virus, that can be whatever it is. And we managed to bypass those kind of scare screens with our technology that enables to download the application and install it only with 2 clicks, and that creates the significant scalable. When you have millions or hundreds of millions of devices in all of the world, and especially in tier 1 countries, that creates the adoption of custom APKs, and that is enabling developers to actually result with higher revenues, higher margins, and disrupts really this ecosystem. So we asked about partnership, and this partnership entails the carriers that entails the programmatically the DSPs. Finally, it's possible to run a programmatic campaign that will run with Single Tap, and you can do it on preloads. Of course, you have to have the MMPs that verify the attribution and the growth and revenues and installs, and eventually the companies that bring trust right to the ecosystem. And there are many developers, for example, Artem, that that need some help with integrations, because as we said, developers are not necessarily in a very easy situation, so they need help. And how do we help them? Sometimes with integrations. There are different companies, great companies like Flexion, that can alleviate those integration points and can help with porting those applications into different app stores. So those kind of partnerships that we do across the industry, and I'm happy to share that all those vendors, carriers, MMPs, DSPs, service providers, tech providers, they are very excited to be disrupting this industry right now, because they understand what kind of value it brings eventually to both the industry and the users.
Got it, Shalom. It's great that you guys are part of so big ecosystem of partners, helping each other. We can move forward more reliably, more sustainably. All right. That was the final question to address the topic on the table for today's episode. And because it's your first time on the show, I have a few quick questions that I ask every newcomer so we all can know you a little bit better. All right, here we go. So question number one. What smartphone do you have now, and why is this particular model?
Okay, so I actually upgraded 2 weeks ago to iPhone 16 Pro. I had the 11 Pro for 5 years, and yeah, too long. But and I don't know if you know, but it had a battery issue like 2, 3 years ago. So I gave my old one and I received a new one. So it increased my duration for another 2 years. But recently I told I have to change. I have to upgrade. So 2 weeks ago I have the new 16 Pro. Why? I feel that. I feel that somebody that was using back then a Nexus like many years ago, don't remember which model. I think it was 4, but I don't really remember. I feel that it works very well for me. Doesn't create any issues, and really happy with it.
Great. So this is actually quantum leap. Speaking of Ferrari, moving from 11 to 16 Pro, that's a leap.
That's true.
Congrats. All right, let's jump back in time. What was your first mobile phone?
So, my first one was in 2001. I was 15, 16 years old back then. It was the Nokia 5110, the one that you could, change the colors of the screen, this thing. And, I was a pro at Snake. I really was enjoying Snake, but I had Nokia for a few years, up until I think 2000 and around 7, if I'm not mistaken, or 8, when I upgraded to the BlackBerry 9700 Bold. I love this, the thumb typing over there. I loved it, very much loved it.
Great. Yeah, there's got to be a statue somewhere to that snake in the game because kids these days who have no idea what kind of snake we're talking about. So many games. What snake?
What snake? Yeah.
All right. Back to present. So imagine for a second you left your brand new iPhone 16 Pro at home. You're out. What would be the most missing feature for you?
Feature or app? Missing feature?
Could be both.
Well, I would say if it's an app, then definitely it's going to be WhatsApp. I'm quite addicted to WhatsApp, especially keeping in touch with family, friends abroad. So that's WhatsApp. And I think in terms of feature on the phone, you know what? I think it's going to be camera. Whenever I'm going out with the family and kids, then there's always involved with selfies and the kids asking for to take pictures. So I think it's the camera.
Especially the
Experimenting the
16 Pro.
limitations exactly on 16 Pro.
Yeah, all right. And as great as this device is, there's no such thing as a perfection. We can always move forward. So, thinking along these lines, what do you think? What technologies do you believe your phone is missing? What tech will make it a better tool for you?
I think that now we're in an era of AI and how AI is coming into the phone. I don't have here the intelligence yet on the 16. It's not available. Should be sometime soon. But anyway, I think that if we think about apps and how apps can incorporate AI, especially around gaming. That could be interesting. There are already different startups that start thinking, how we create, creatives and advertisements on AI, and how we, start running games and build different games that associate and tailor for different users on AI. So think about the game that will be completely different for you and for me, because it will learn our patterns. So I think that this is something that is definitely interesting. That's something that we probably can see more and more in our industry in the next several years, or
Yeah,
even so.
totally. This is uncharted territory in terms of what kind of applications actually AI may have. And games, yeah, it's yet another domain where you can go, you can get the ultimate customization, like you're saying. You're distributing the game to so many people, and you can actually have a really unique custom experience for every single user you're delivering a game to. This can be really powerful. All right, before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
I'm very much available on LinkedIn, usually very also responsive, trying at least to be responsive over there. So if you have any questions, thoughts, recommendations, ideas about what we do and how to get in touch with us, with the team generally, you can always shoot me a message on LinkedIn. My email is also a possibility, and if you are in different conferences, if you are coming to Pocket Gamers London, then you'll be able to see me and have fish and chips or oat flat white here in London with me.
Great, Shalom. Thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your knowledge and experience. It was great. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Artem. Thank you very much for you and for the team. Thank you.
And that was Shalom Mikhaeli, Managing Director, Alternative App Stores at Digital Turbine. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps, and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe, and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer if you still listen podcasts on a computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.